One single coin might just secure your family's entire future. Does that sound too good to be true? Well, that is exactly the debate raging today among a growing legion of financial independence seekers, and it has everything to do with Bitcoin. Some investors believe that holding only one Bitcoin could be enough to guarantee a stable, comfortable life, while others point to sky-high figures, insisting that you need over 2 million coins to achieve genuine forever safety. Where does the reality lie in this swirling storm of speculation? Today, we are plunging right into the heart of this battle of ideas. Could a digital asset that some people used to think was a nerdy experiment really become our ticket to faithful financial security? And even if it does, how much of that digital asset is enough? In this scenario, I plan to unearth the key details and the lesser-known controversies behind these bold claims. Stay with me, because by the end, you might reconsider how you approach your daily saving and investment, or you might feel a jolt of motivation to start stacking your own coins. In this riveting chronicle, we're going to look at what prompted the question from crypto entrepreneur Luke Belmar, who boldly asked, "How much Bitcoin do you need to be safe?" We'll explore the bizarre claim by Bitcoin Exchange Balance, which suggested that more than 2 million coins might do the trick, an astronomical sum in the broader currency universe. We'll investigate why some voices in the crypto world are echoing a vastly more modest approach. Simply own one Bitcoin and watch the world shift. You will also discover the concept of Satoshis, those tiny fractions of Bitcoin, and how that tactic opens a doorway for people who cannot afford multiple whole coins. In short, we're going deeper than ever into the tension, illusions, and hopes swirling around Bitcoin's potential to be a financial life raft. If you are tired of hearing the same old crypto is either heaven sent or worthless arguments, you are in the right place. In this scenario, we will pick them apart, the illusions and the truths behind them, and ask whether the mythic promise of one Bitcoin equals freedom is actually feasible. We'll also tackle the possibility that maybe Bitcoin at $1 million or more per coin someday could fundamentally rewrite the rules of retirement planning. So, buckle up and get ready to challenge your presumptions. And if you find yourself caught off guard by any upcoming bombshell, go ahead and tap that like button to let us know that this moment truly blew your mind. Now, let's set the stage. The text that fired up this entire debate mentions a scenario in which the price of Bitcoin already dances around $106,981. Of course, as any longtime crypto observer knows, Bitcoin's value is famously volatile and always in flux. Just a handful of years prior, many would have found it unbelievable, but not now. We have reached an era where some see Bitcoin not as a fleeting speculation, but as a necessary step for those who want to escape from the confines of conventional retirement structures. The big question is, if we are moving into a time where digital currency stands beside, or potentially beyond, standard savings accounts and pension plans, then how do we best prepare? Picture this. An entrepreneur named Luke Belmar steps forward with a simple but tantalizing question. How much Bitcoin do you need to be safe? It might sound straightforward enough, but his words lit up countless conversations, tweets, and forums. The question is at once naive, because of the vast uncertainty of the crypto realm, and deeply profound, because a growing population believes that Bitcoin is the future foundation of wealth. In a playful response, Bitcoin Exchange Balance, a service that tracks daily updates on exchange holdings, threw out a figure so gigantic it could twist your mind in circles. More than 2 million coins, specifically 2,051,088 Bitcoin. Now, to the uninitiated, that is a random number, but it quickly becomes staggering when you consider that a single coin, in the scenario we are describing, trades at $106,981. Multiply it out, and you land in the territory of over $219 billion. That is the kind of wealth that only a handful of living individuals can command. The sort of sum rarely seen outside the domain of the wealthiest folks on the planet. The reaction to that, of course, was, wait, are they serious? Because if you truly needed that many coins to be safe, it would mean that fewer than 5 inhabitants of Earth could theoretically be financially secure. That is obviously not realistic. And so the debate rages on. Is 2 million coins an intentional overkill number meant to spark conversation? Or does the mention of that number represent something else? Perhaps an ironic jolt to highlight how unrealistic some people's aims have become? And here comes the counterpoint. Some folks in the cryptosphere fervently believe you only need one Bitcoin for a fighting chance at an affluent future. That idea can sound equally far-fetched from a different vantage point. Imagine telling your parents that you just spent $100,000 or more on a single digital coin, and that it's actually a wise retirement plan. This is where a notion about fractional ownership steps in. The smallest unit of Bitcoin is known as a Satoshi, named after the still mysterious inventor or inventors, Satoshi Nakamoto. One Bitcoin contains 100 million Satoshis, meaning you can buy portions of a coin, often as small as your exchange will allow. The logic here is that if you cannot afford an entire Bitcoin, then steadily accumulating Satoshis might still be enough to open your door to the digital revolution. But how do people jump from that interesting quirk of Bitcoin's structure to proclaiming that one coin is enough to claim a financially unbreakable fortress? One reason: projections that Bitcoin may eventually climb to $1 million or more. Certain well-known figures, like Robert Kiyosaki, famed for penning Rich Dad, Poor Dad, have predicted that Bitcoin will eventually cross that threshold. If that were to happen, then the single coin you hold today might rocket your net worth in a way that few other investments can match. Sure, it is a big if. There are no crystal balls in the realm of macroeconomics, and digital currencies are prone to dramatic swings. But the dream, the possibility, persists. Meanwhile, a full-time trader known in some circles as crypto data has suggested that if Bitcoin's upward trajectory continues, that single coin you hold now might enable you to live worry-free within the next decade. Again, it is not guaranteed that Bitcoin will rise to that degree. But for those who believe in its potential, it sounds like a rallying cry, a clarion call to secure that one coin, or at least as many Satoshis as possible, before it becomes far too expensive for the average person to handle. We also have what the personal finance world calls the 25 times rule, commonly used to estimate how much money you need saved in order to retire. You take your annual expenses and multiply them by 25, and that result is your target nest egg. Let's say your annual expenses are about $50,000. The rule states you then need around $1,250,000 to reach that level of comfort. If we connect that with the potential for Bitcoin to one day be worth $1 million per coin, the idea is that one coin might be about $1 million, bringing you awfully close to that magic threshold recommended for a stable retirement. Here's the catch. In this scenario, you would still be short of your personal target if your aim is $1,250,000. However, that is not such a dire shortfall that you couldn't make it up through other means, or that further appreciation in Bitcoin's price would not cover the gap. And that is part of what fuels the excitement. Bitcoin might not just rise to 1 million and stop. Some folks envision a future in which it hits 2 million, 5 million, or perhaps even more over a longer timeline. Of course, critics caution that this sort of speculation can be dangerous. History is littered with assets that soared in price, only to crash spectacularly. As incredible as Bitcoin's potential is, it is not immune to risk. Regulatory clampdowns, new technology displacing Bitcoin, societal shifts, and countless other factors. The tension between unstoppable optimism and realistic caution forms the gripping backdrop to this entire debate. Now, what is at stake here is not just an argument about digital versus physical assets, but a fundamental clash of visions regarding our future. Traditional retirement structures rely on consistent contributions to pension funds, stable equity investments, and the promise of Social Security or other social programs in certain regions. However, many fear that established systems are under strain, unable to keep pace with massive demographic and economic changes, including an aging workforce. By contrast, Bitcoin is championed by those who see it as a currency free from central bank meddling, immune to old-school inflation, and globally accessible at any time. So, if you have ever felt discouraged by the thought that you are trapped in an outdated system that might not meet your future needs, you can see the powerful allure that pushes investors toward Bitcoin. After all, the decentralized nature of the blockchain means that you control your coins, nobody else. Government bailouts, policy fiascos, or the mismanagement of pension funds might become less of a threat to your personal little corner of wealth. This is a perfect example of how technology can revolutionize not just an industry, but entire societal structures. Pausing here for a moment, let us reflect on the sheer magnitude of what we have uncovered so far. We have a debate featuring unbelievably large numbers, contrasting with the idea that just one digital coin might transform your financial destiny. We have the tension between old and new, between proven investment strategies and the dream of seizing a future that might outpace the standard approaches. There is enough drama here to fill volumes. And if you are enjoying this walk through the labyrinth, you might consider subscribing to our channel so you can be part of future deep dives as well. But let's keep the momentum going. We need to ask another crucial question. Who exactly proposed these numbers, and why should their viewpoints hold any weight? Luke Belmar, the man who set off the conversation, is known for building communities of entrepreneurs, people hungry for a shot at personal freedom and success. At the center of these communities are expressions of dissatisfaction with the standard 9 to 5, or the worry of a global economy that can overshadow the ambitions of everyday citizens. Bitcoin and other blockchain-based assets have been championed as pathways to leveling the playing field. Then we have Bitcoin Exchange Balance, a platform that ironically decided to toy with the conversation by suggesting a figure above 2 million coins as the marker for financial security. That appears to be, in large part, an online jest, poking fun at the idea that we can pinpoint some magical number guaranteed to deliver a risk-free life. But ironically, that joke snowballed into a serious discussion that has people rethinking their approach to personal savings. For instance, there might be those out there who had never given a second thought to Bitcoin, but once they shook off the absurdity of the multi-million coin claim, they started investigating what a single coin or even half a coin could do for them. The interesting part is that some people responded to Belmar's question with the simplest possible approach. Just start, even if you can save only a tiny fraction of a Bitcoin, because the important step is taking that first move. Satoshi stacking groups have sprung up around the globe, where participants vow to buy small amounts of Bitcoin every week or month, no matter the market conditions, hoping that in 5 or 10 years, the cumulative effect might be life-changing. Imagine someone who, a few years ago, invested a moderate sum when Bitcoin was still in the 4-figure price range. Even as the market soared and plummeted repeatedly, these small, consistent investments might now amount to a significant holding, especially if the scenario we are exploring, Bitcoin pushing past $100,000 or more, continues in a long-term upward trend. Of course, we should not forget the disclaimers. Everyone agrees that you should do thorough research and not blindly trust predictions of indefinite price growth. The cryptosphere is rife with stories of paper millionaires who discovered their fortunes vanish overnight when sudden crashes shook the market. That does not mean you should bury your head in the sand, but you should learn the difference between prudent investing and gambling your savings away. The trick is in your personal risk tolerance, your time horizon, and your understanding of the technology behind Bitcoin. To see how this might play out in the real world, consider a hypothetical scenario. Suppose the year is 2025, and Bitcoin sits around that $106,981 mark that the text references. Perhaps you were an early believer, and you managed to accumulate a couple of coins back when they were much cheaper. By selling part of your stash, you might already have recouped your initial investment, removing that risk from your portfolio. At this point, your cost basis could be effectively zero, meaning you are free to let the rest ride. But does that guarantee your future is safe? That word alone is a bit of a trap. Nobody can promise safety in the uncertain waves of the global economy. Even real estate, once seen as the pinnacle of stable value, has faced bubble after bubble. Stocks can crash, inflation can undermine the purchasing power of your savings, and new regulations can change the rules. Still, the resiliency that Bitcoin has shown, bouncing back from multiple crashes, has fed the narrative that it could indeed prove itself as a store of value over the long run. We also need to consider the psychological aspects at play. The allure of a single Bitcoin fueling your entire future can be irresistible, like a modern-day gold rush. People hear stories of individuals who sold everything for Bitcoin and then watched their net worth skyrocket. Naturally, that fosters envy and even fear of missing out. At the same time, they see the controversies and the roller coaster volatility, like the epic, harrowing drops after bullish runs that have become the stuff of crypto legend, and it can feel terrifying. So, we end up with a push and pull dynamic that makes it difficult to know how many coins actually equal enough. One method to quell the confusion might be to create a plan or a personal framework. For example, you could say, my annual expenses are X, so using the 25 times rule, I need Y in total investments. Then, from there, decide what portion of that you might reasonably place into Bitcoin or other digital assets, thinking about not just the potential gains, but also the possibility that the price might stall or drop. Many do see wise investing as diversification, not placing all your eggs in one basket, no matter how shiny that basket may appear. Yet, time and again, the question returns. What if Bitcoin does surge to $1 million per coin or beyond? Could that overshadow every other investment you have and turn out to be the difference between an anxious future and an extraordinarily comfortable one? Should you chase that possibility with all your resources, or show restraint and keep one foot in more predictable territory? Even everyday folks who do not identify as hardcore crypto fans are starting to pay attention to the broader cultural shift favoring digital assets. They notice how large companies are adopting blockchain tech, how some banks are dabbling in crypto custody, and how certain governments are taking notice of Bitcoin. El Salvador, for instance, famously declared it legal tender, which brought an avalanche of debate about the direction money is heading. That real-world acceptance can bolster the conviction of those who champion Bitcoin as a legitimate, unstoppable force. On top of that, there is the generational factor. Younger generations, who find it difficult to break into the real estate market or who distrust centralized monetary policies, are turning to crypto in significant numbers. They see codes and decentralized ledgers as more trustworthy than the kinds of shadowy negotiations that can happen behind closed doors at major financial institutions. So, even if you personally remain undecided, there is no denying that a tidal wave of interest is driving adoption of Bitcoin across many parts of our society. That wave is precisely what is fueling these eye-popping predictions of Bitcoin's future price. Some forecast that universal demand will keep rising, while supply remains constrained at 21 million coins, potentially driving the value of each coin to heights that might seem laughable today. Combine that with the ephemeral or intangible nature of the internet itself, and you have a recipe for the ultimate speculation, overshadowing even the mania that once surrounded .com stocks. All of this leads us back to our central thread. How many coins are enough? For some, it is a trick question, because they argue that when you believe in the technology's future, you do not measure enough in the same way. For them, every bit helps, especially as they watch the steady infiltration of blockchain technology into daily life. Meanwhile, the more cautious among us prefer to see actual results, real usage, robust regulations, and proof that Bitcoin can weather any storm. After all, there are no guaranteed outcomes. That wariness might lead them to keep their total exposure limited. But for those who want a more direct guideline, the arguments we reviewed are vital. The just one coin viewpoint rests on the assumption that major price growth is coming, and soon enough that the average person can wait it out. The sat stacking approach suggests you do not need a whole coin. Tiny purchases might add up over time, especially if we do indeed see dramatic price appreciation. The 2 million coins or bust viewpoint, on the other hand, was mostly thrown out as a humorous overestimation, at least if we interpret the comments from Bitcoin Exchange Balance as tongue-in-cheek. The real conversation surfaces in the middle ground, as you see people applying established personal finance rules, like the 25 times rule, to a brand new, still evolving asset class. No matter which side you stand on, the question alone does something remarkable. It illuminates just how significant Bitcoin's role has become in modern finance. Not so long ago, even talking about Bitcoin as a retirement strategy would have sounded preposterous. But times change, and in times of transformation, fortunes are sometimes minted for those who take timely action, while others are left to wonder what might have been. So, if all this talk of a possible future where one Bitcoin equals a brand new life has you curious, or if the concept of long-term unstoppable digital currency resonates with you, let us know by giving us a subtle sign of your support. We love seeing people react to these big, mind-shaking ideas. For now, one thing is certain: Bitcoin is not an asset that stands still. Whether it is surging, dipping, or forging a new path, it continues to make headlines, shape public discourse, and forge new believers, and, indeed, new critics, every day. Institutional players are stepping into the ring, building out custodial services and mutual funds that revolve around the crypto space. Megacorporations sometimes test the waters of accepting Bitcoin as payment. All of that is a far cry from the coin's early days, when it was mostly discarded as fringe or borderline worthless. With that evolution, the inevitability of more mainstream acceptance draws a question mark across the horizon. How high could Bitcoin go if it becomes truly mainstream? Could it overshadow gold, as some have speculated? Could it surpass real estate as the place to store value? Or is that a false illusion peddled by dreamers? It might be only time that can shed light on these uncertainties, but in the meantime, the messages from people like Luke Belmar ripple across social media, beckoning newcomers to weigh their own beliefs, risk appetites, and readiness to trust an algorithmically secured asset that does not bend to central authorities. A final note worth emphasizing is that no one can predict the future with absolute certainty. For every bullish voice chanting Bitcoin to the moon, there is a bear who warns of its cataclysmic end. As an individual, it often comes down to standing firm in your own convictions, informed by research, tempered by caution, and balanced by a sense of your personal financial goals. If you have made it this far in our exploration, you have probably gained a sense that the discussion around how much Bitcoin is enough is about far more than a raw number. It is about grappling with the unpredictability of the future, the illusions of total stability, and the hope of forging a path that deviates from the old faltering paradigms. Whether you are a grand believer, a curious bystander, or a staunch skeptic, one point is beyond doubt. The question, how much Bitcoin do you need to be safe, triggers precisely the kind of reflection that might lead you to reevaluate not only your portfolio, but your entire perspective on financial well-being. The conversation that started with a simple tweet from a crypto entrepreneur has blossomed into a large-scale discourse that resonates powerfully with those who fear being left behind by the traditional system. Hence, it is no wonder that you will find strong opinions on all sides, from those that label Bitcoin a reckless gamble to those who hail it as the final puzzle piece in the journey toward personal sovereignty. And that is our scenario. Was it helpful, enlightening, or did it spark more questions than answers? Personally, I think it is good to emerge with new questions. Curiosity propels growth. The willingness to confront unknowns sets the stage for breakthroughs in how we manage our finances and secure our future. Always remember, do your own research, ask the tough questions, and never be pressured into believing that any single strategy is the universal key to wealth and peace of mind. But do stay open to that glimmer of possibility that maybe, just maybe, owning even a small portion of this pioneering cryptocurrency might help you take a confident stride on your journey to freedom. Thank you for venturing with me through this enthralling conversation about how many Bitcoins one truly needs to feel secure. From the comedic exaggeration of 2 million or more coins to the more humble approach of a single coin or even a fraction, we have touched upon the swirling tides of passion, anxiety, possibility, and hope that define the crypto landscape. Whether you keep a single Satoshi or you dream of building a well-rounded portfolio, stay sharp and informed. You never know when a crucial shift could define the next era of finance and your own place within it.